people can join us and yes, then people can join us when they arrive. So hello to everybody. Welcome to a unique networking meeting of Ukrainian and Estonian HR communities called HR Without Borders. And my name is Kai Miller, and I am the Chief Executive Officer of Estonian HR Association PARE. I am really glad to see a lot of you here and that you could join us today. And I encourage you, all of you, to join in the conversation with us today. So in today's meeting, we focus on exchanging the knowledge useful for Ukrainian HR professionals who seek to work in Estonia, and for Estonian HR professionals who wish to hear about the challenges, strategy changes of Ukrainian HR community, and also which cross-cultural aspects to keep in mind when recruiting Ukrainian refugees. If you have any questions, you can, I think, turn on just your microphone and ask directly, or you can just use the chat box in Zoom. So we will be hearing a lot about the Ukraine HR professionals' point of view, which is presented to us by Katrina Kavlivska, who is the head of supervisory board at the HR Pro Ukrainian Association. Hello, Katrina. How are you?
Hi. Hi, everybody. You know, we always say right now that we are normal. We can't say we are good because of the situation in our country. And I want to say thank you very much, and thank you for your time and your efforts, and thank you for invitation to this conversation.
Thank you. But before Katerina gives us her perspective, we will be hearing about the main activities and opportunities for Ukrainians which are provided in Estonia at the moment. So our first speaker is Katrin Liivamets, who is the head of Job Seekers and Employers Services Department in Estonia, called Unemployment Insurance Fund. And she will give us some statistics and profile of job seekers with Ukrainian refugee background, and talk about the labor market services and benefits, and so on and so on. Katrin, the stage is yours.
Thank you, and hello everybody. I try to share a screen again. You can see it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I try not to bore you too much with the statistics, but still, I think some insight about how many and who exactly has come to Estonia during the war times to get temporary protection and to try to start their lives here will be helpful. Here's a lot of detailed statistics. We will not go into all of it, but maybe you can look it up later if we can share the slides after the seminar. Maybe most important is to know that there is more than 30,000 Ukrainian refugees who have come to Estonia. Not all of them have stayed. About 1/3 of them has moved to other EU countries, and about 23,000 Ukrainian refugees have applied for temporary protection in Estonia. And temporary protection in Estonia gives them equal rights with all citizens and permanent inhabitants of Estonia. So they can get all medical help, apply for jobs, have equal salary rights, and so on in Estonia as everybody else. People started receiving this temporary protection on 10th of March, so there has been a bit more than 2 months for them to to start their lives in Estonia, which is a short period, and we have altogether we have had more than 6,000 of them who has been or are registered as unemployed. So if I said that there is about 23,000 of them altogether in Estonia who have received temporary protection, about 40% of them are children or people who are not grown up yet, and the others are the ones who are in their working age and who will probably sooner or later apply for jobs in Estonia. But as you can see, about half of them maybe, or even a bit less, have applied for help for finding a job. The main reason we think for that is the fact that they have been here for a very short period and they haven't settled in. They are in temporary accommodation in hotels and such, and they're not sure where exactly they find a permanent place to live in Estonia, and that's why they are kind of on a hold. They don't know in which part of Estonia they need to apply for jobs and so on. And people have even told to our counselors that they have received a job offer, but as they live on the boat, for example, where they are accommodated, they don't know if they can take the offer because maybe they won't be able to find permanent accommodation in Tallinn, for example. So people are dealing with that kind of basic issues and haven't been able. Everybody haven't been able to start looking for a job at all. And another reason, even if they have accommodation, is the fact that mostly the people who have come here are women with young children, and they need to arrange their childcare facilities before they can take up a job. And that's also another reason why not all of them have started looking for a job. But you can see that today there are a bit more than 4,500 of them still registered and still looking for a job, and almost 1,700 have already found a job via Estonian Unemployment Insurance Fund, which is I think great result to find a job in a new environment, in a new country in just 2 months. So our counselors say that people, someone's microphone is on, maybe you can check. So our counselors say that most Ukrainian refugees who have registered as unemployed are very motivated and eager to find a new job and to be able to cope in Estonia by themselves. So they are really motivated, but on the other hand, they still are not very familiar with the working and living conditions in Estonia, and here comes several difficulties for them. For example, people ask from our counselors if they are allowed to work in Estonia illegally, or if it's okay to take a salary without a contract and so on. So they just don't know how things usually are and what is normal and what is not. Here is a strong Ukrainian community in Estonia, and they help a lot with their knowledge about their practice with living in Estonia, but still there are people who don't have a network here and who are more prone to and more vulnerable to such different propositions. So that's why we are trying to work closely with other institutions in Estonia to give knowledge to them about what is the minimum salary in Estonia and which are the working hours and how much vacation per year you should get and so on. So that's very important information for all of them. And for employers, we also try to assure that it's very important to apply fair conditions to every employee. So not to take advantage of the difficult situation of refugees, which often happens. So I hope Estonian employers will be responsible, and most of them have shown really goodwill and understanding that it's not a chance to get easily new workforce with the lower salaries, but pay fair salaries as they pay to their other employees as well. And here you can see that this orange line is the number of Ukrainian refugee background job seekers. It's altogether a bit more than 9% of all the job seekers registered in Estonia, so it's quite a high share. And the one more worry that our clients of Ukrainian refugee background share with us is the fact that they are not most of them are from larger cities, and they are not used to living in a country. And in Estonia, Tallinn is basically the only city for them, and a lot of clients have said that I rented a cottage or I rented an apartment, and it's the first time in my life that when I'm living on a lower this store or a level than 12th, for example. So people are from bigger cities, it seems so, and in Estonia it's very difficult to get accommodation in Tallinn because there are just not enough free apartments or flats or places to rent, and people find it very difficult to move to smaller towns in Estonia, like Otepää, like Haapsalu, and so on. Estonians really like there, like a lot of forest and all those romance when you go to your grandmother's place in the country. But people who have been forced to leave their homes in Ukraine find it really difficult if they have come to Tallinn when they find out that now they need to move again within Estonia and to a place that is very like rural compared to what they have been used to. So that's one difficult issue for them as well. And the fact is that about 45% of all the jobs in Estonia are in Tallinn and Harjumaa, which is the capital city and the county around it, or region around it. But there are no about accommodation places. There are much less than the jobs available here. So that's something which will be difficult for the refugees. If they want to get a job, they would need to have accommodation in Tallinn or nearby, but it might not be possible. So potentially the ones who are able to telework could benefit from teleworking possibilities to find a job suitable for their profile. And I already said that almost a quarter of the Ukrainian refugees that have registered themselves as unemployed have already found a new job. The most common or popular economic areas or economic activities where they have started working is manufacturing, wholesales, and accommodation. So, but also a lot of them have started working in healthcare and medicine, and also in educational fields. So it's good to see that even if people have a previous work experience in areas that where they need to prove their qualification to start working in different countries, for example, doctors, medical nurses, and so on, a lot of them have been able to start work, maybe not as a doctor, but still in medical or healthcare sector at least. So that is something that we find to be very important because they are very willing to take up more easier jobs, as they think of their stay in Estonia as a very short term. They hope that they can go back to Ukraine in summer, or at least in the beginning of autumn, and that's why they are more prone to get or to take up easier jobs that don't match their qualification. But in general, they have very good qualifications. 93% of them are women, and 60% of them have higher education, and also another 10% of them have specialized vocational education, and we think of it as a value that they are professionals, and even though they don't speak Estonian, and it makes it difficult for them to start working in Estonia, because here are many areas where there are requirements about Estonian language skills. We value a lot to help them to find employment at their professional area. So here you can see their last occupation. There are a lot of people from wholesale and such, but also financial sector, food services and accommodation, marketing and public affairs and such. But if you look at their at the jobs that they say they would like to get now, there are more easier jobs, like people putting out stuff in stores, or cleaners, or people who pack things and such. Sorry, many of them have already started different active labor market measures. Most of them study Estonian, or most of them who have started active labor market measures study Estonian, but they also attend eagerly all kinds of informational seminars, job seekers workshops, career information, and such. So they really, those who have registered are like really focused to starting to learn Estonian, to be able to find a job here and find a living. And as Estonia and Ukraine have a social insurance contract, refugees who register as unemployed can get unemployment allowance, and almost 80% of those who have registered receive this allowance. In most difficult situation are women who have been at the retirement pension in Ukraine. As I understand, the retirement age for women starts much earlier than in Estonia, and if they have been retired, they don't qualify for this unemployment allowance in Estonia. So mostly those are the ones who don't receive any benefits marked in gray. And yeah, that's a short overview about how they are doing in Estonia right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Katrin. Thank you so much for this overview. Are there any questions for Katrin? There are not questions in the chat box, but maybe somebody wants to ask directly. If no, I have a couple of questions. Could you tell me, is there any statistics collected about how many Ukrainians plan to stay and work in Estonia, even if the war is over?
There is no such statistics. They are in very difficult position because most of them really want to go back. And if they meet any difficulties in Estonia, the first thing they say that it's all so different, it is difficult, they just want to go back. And that's also the reason why some of them haven't picked up any job or registered as unemployed. They don't feel sure about staying here even during the war, and they all hope that the war will end very, very soon. They expect it to happen any day, and that's why they are a bit restless and not able to make very long-term plans. That's something that employers definitely need to bear in mind, that a lot of them are like really traumatized by their what happened in Ukraine, how they got here, and what has happened with them here, because every time when they are like reaccommodated, it's a trauma for them. So that's something employers should keep in mind. They are motivated, they are of a good profile, well educated, but still it might be very difficult for them to start like normal working life here. There are people who have said that I thought about it earlier, and I would like to try to start living and working in Estonia with more permanent attention plan, but most of them still feel that they are just waiting here in a safe environment until they can go back.
Mm-hmm.
And I can share from my side as well that, yes, primarily, I think we are discussing these questions a lot about attitude, how are people considering the situation. And yes, primarily, I mean, just everybody want back home. Can you imagine we were living a normal life and just one morning we woke up and ran away with small luggage, for sure. I mean, I completely agree with you, Katrina, that it's big trauma and people need some times. And yes, we hope, but people slowly start to realize that this war can be a long one. And that makes them to change their plans. And money is, I mean, just it's complicated to stay and wait without work. So people are moving slowly to the new reality and somehow returning to the condition when they ready to consider new jobs and new positions. So that is.
One more question as well. Katrin, what would you say, what have been the most difficult aspects about helping Ukrainian refugees to work in Estonia? From your side, and maybe you can see employer's side as well. She disappeared.
With some connection.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you were frozen, Katerina.
Okay.
Okay,
Maybe
I don't know.
Later, or maybe somebody from our visitors can share their experience if you already employ any Ukrainian. It's happened. It's internet connection.
Yep. So I think we will just move on then. Mm-hmm. Okay. So again, Katrin is not here anymore, but thank you for this overview. And now on to Katrina, who will be talking about new challenges for HR in Ukraine, strategy changes, relocation, psychological support, volunteering, and so on. So please, Katrina.
Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. We can change to the next slide when I will talk about a couple of words about myself. My name is Katrina Kavlivska. I'm a head of Ukrainian HR Pro Association. We are already more than 7 years active and working with our HR community a lot. We are doing normal stuff, which is usually HR community is doing and providing. We are almost 7 years with partnership with SHRM, American HR Association, and actually global one. And my speech will be it will be three parts. I will tell you a couple of words about the economical situation before war and right now in Ukraine. I will tell you a couple of words about us Ukrainian HR specialists, and our guests, Egbert Skrem and Julia Klim, will help me to talk more deeply about cross-cultural management and differentiation and help us to understand the difference between us and how to make this complicity to benefit of everybody. So next slide, please. Let's start with a short overview of Ukrainian economy. Ukraine is the largest country in Europe, bigger than France or Spain. There are three main locomotives of our economy before war. It's agriculture, metallurgy, and IT. 30% of the world black soil reserve is in Ukraine. If you talk about metallurgy, 46% of all iron exported to EUA is provided by Ukraine. And, two largest metallurgical plants were in Mariupol, and one of them is Azovstal. I think you heard this name. 230,000 specialists were employed in IT. More than 100 companies from the Fortune 500 list resort to Ukrainian IT companies' services. We have a huge and very good amount of just qualified specialists in this sphere. Next slide, please. 1/3 of the wheat world export is under the risk because of this war. Environment problems. As you can see, mines in the Black Sea, chemical and oil storages explosion, active hostilities next to nuclear power plants. All of that things shows us clearly that this is the war of Russia against entire civilization and human values, not just against Ukraine. Next slide, please. Couple of words about us, Ukrainians. Today, at least one Ukrainian in every 4 has been driven from their homes. 1 from 4. 2/3 of all Ukrainians' children are now refugees, whether inside country or elsewhere. Some, I think, main feature of Ukrainian characters. It's caring. While Russian soldiers are stealing washing machine from our homes, and not just washing machines, we are taking our pets away from shelling. We are very practical nations, by the way. Our farmers kidnapped Russian tanks with their tractors, because we are brave as well. Our civilians stood up in the road and stopped tanks just without any weapon. We are really very creative nation. Maybe you heard the story of Ukrainian lady who shot down a reconnaissance drone from the balcony of her multi-store building with the can of pickles. So we're really, really brave and creative. Okay, next. Couple of words about HR market. According to survey conducted on LinkedIn by SHRM, there are 20,000 HR specialists in Ukraine, including recruiters, admin position, and CNB specialist. As usually, I mean, in Europe, it's primarily female and primarily young one in our case. Next slide, please. Here about the education, 75% of our HR specialists has a high education and 20% of them, back please, back up, and 20% of them has more than one high education. But if to think about and see the profile of education, it's rarely specialized HR education. That's, you should be ready for this. Here you can see some number. There are country average gross salaries in the, and these numbers we get from January, the numbers from January 2022. As I said, it's average, country average gross salaries. In large cities, these figures would be higher, and especially in the capital. So if you see the specialists from the capital, their salaries will be bigger. Next one. Okay. According to classification of a nominate projects at the HR Pro Awards, where in 2021, jury considering more than 100 best projects, you can see that the main focuses of HR specialists was on training and development, because I think it's the same problems we face all over the world. We need upskilling, reskilling, and all of that stuff. Well-being, and I think it was primarily of the result of the COVID. Recruitment, and HR analytics still showed a lack of attention. It still was necessary to pay a little bit more, as I think, to such a things. Okay, still growing. What's going on with our HR specialists now and with our business? Okay, for sure, it's strategy changes. It's a lot of business relocation, closing certain line of business. Sometimes it's closing the business completely when it's in such a places which is under constant bombarding. New market introduction, and very fast. And some of them were refocusing on military needs, because the army needs support. What about operational changes? Adaptation to working in wartime, you know, air raid warnings really didn't help chemical plants to work normally. Change shift due to curfew, and it's operation activities needs attention every day, because changes every day. Next slide. Reorganization of the payment system. How we can pay, who can be paid. 63% of the large business continue to pay salaries to employees in full, but I think it's becoming more and more complicated even for large businesses because of the continuing war. Next one. Well-being and psychological support. What I can say, it's really important to pay attention right now to this topic. Because if we say that we need sustainable and resilient business in general, it's better if you have such a system, because in the time of such a crisis, needs and demand for psychological support was growing dramatically. 3-4 times bigger requests for psychological help. What was the main topic at the beginning? Informational hygiene, because of Russian propaganda and all of that fake news. And, the businesses, the one who is not going outside the Russian and still continue to operate in Ukraine, it was another problem of HRs, how to help people to react on such challenges. Emotional self-care increases situation, resilience in general, personal resilience. Here was a lot of questions how to support kids as well. Because when your kids spend with you a lot of nights somewhere in the basement, you need to talk with them about work. And one more interesting and unusual topic we face right now, it's the question of guiltiness. Or any kind of person thinking right now that he's not doing enough. It doesn't matter if you are in the army or volunteering every day from morning till evening, or working or taking care of kids. Anyway, everybody thinks that they are not doing enough. What is important in one more issue, that right now the well-being activities in Ukraine looks becoming more direct. We are not waiting right now for people to ask for psychological support. We very actively talking about this and asking them to take some psychological support. People still don't understand the size of trauma and the size of stress they face. So we are more direct with our help. That's what I can say. I mean, just HRs. Next one, please. I think the next slide will be about volunteering. So we really do a lot as a business, as HR, and HR really like working in the side of community management and help to organize employees if they wanna to be more active in this, in volunteering. So it's just the part of our focus as well. Next one, please. Okay. Next slide. Okay, diversity and inclusion. What I want to say, yes, this topic is very, very important, and it's better to start to work on it. Oh my God, Irina right now writing, who is helping us with slides, saying that there is some kind of bomb, I mean, just some kind of activity, bad activity in Kyiv. So, okay, Ira, please take care of yourself. She's in Kyiv. So what I want to say about cross-cultural management, it's better as the same as about well-being. If you started to pay attention to this topic before in a good time, it's easier for you to be productive in such a bad time. And right now we're turning to the question of cross-cultural management. And what I want to say as well, it's empowering women. Think about this topic as HR specialists, because I think as more women will be in charge and then in a leadership position, the better world we will have. The more diverse our teams, our leadership will be, the better will be for any of us. So cross-cultural management. Egbert Skrem, please join me and let's, the group CEO Hofstede inside. He will help me to compare to our profiles and compare Estonian profiles and Ukrainian profiles. Egbert?
Thank you, Katarina, and hopefully Irena stays safe there in Kiev. Thanks also for connecting. Claudia, one of my colleagues, put us in touch after indeed Katarina was connected to the Finnish HR Federation, where I have a little bit of history. I prepared a very short presentation, just in a nutshell, to give an idea of how culture can influence how people connect with one another at work. But the lessons from this can also be drawn into public space. For example, I made some notes when Katrina was talking about the prospect of job search and supporting the unemployed. Also in societal settings, cultural differences have a big impact on how we are able to connect people in a new environment. A little bit of my background basically is connecting business and people in a nutshell. I'm active on LinkedIn in case you want to connect, but I won't focus too much time on this. As an organization, what we do at Hofstede Insights is to help people understand in greater level of detail how, where, and when cultural differences might impact how we connect to one another. In other words, helping people to better understand one another, because it is not the differences that create issues. It is assuming that we have no differences. So assumptions are the problem, not the differences. Assuming we work the same, we think the same, we act the same. As an organization, we've been doing this for 35 years, so we have a bit of a track record in terms of knowing what we talk about. To make a point, I'm just going to ask everybody to put in the chat screen, what is it that you see here? So in the Zoom chat, just type in, what is the image that you see? So quite a few people that see a frog, a few people that see a frog and then a horse. Now, for those of you that were not able to see the horse, just tilt your head this way and then look from up to down. So what could be considered the eyes of the frog are the nostrils or the nose of the horse. Here on the right side, middle, the legs or hind legs of the frog could be seen as the ears of a horse. Why is this picture simple yet powerful? Culture is about different perspectives, and taking a perspective, it's already in the word. You have to take another perspective in order to understand somebody that might see things from a different angle. So if you talk about cross-cultural management, if you talk about integrating people that have been raised, educated somewhere else, all parties involved need to be equipped with a skill to actively reflect on the things they see, hear, feel from a different perspective. It does not normally happen automatically. Now, if you think about the role of HR and integration of foreigners, a very solid reflection or question you might want to ask yourself as an HR professional is, what is HR really about? Is it about creating processes and systems? Or is it about how people use these processes and systems? So an unemployment office, good example. Every country has one, but how do we use it? How do we see it? HR, what is the role of HR? Every company of a certain size has an HR manager, but what is it that they're responsible for? Is it to have systems and processes or to use them with a particular mindset? Now, if you talk about mindsets, mindsets are important when people start working together, because if we take, for example, our approach to taking action, some cultures, Estonia, like Finland, like Germany, will take a bit of time before people start or are seen to start doing something, because people first want to make sure that they know what they're talking about, maybe have an hypothesis or an analysis, and then execute quite quickly. If you compare that with the typical management approach most people get taught in MBAs, Anglo-Saxon MBAs, it's much more trial and error. You do something, if it works, copy paste, stop thinking, unless it no longer works, in which case you do something new, copy paste. The problem is not that these processes are different. The problem is when they exist in the same team. Whereas one person thinks, I need to analyze first, and the other person thinks, I need to do something first. So it's important in any multicultural team to reflect on what is your process, because if we add Dutch or Swedish to the mix, it gets quite blurry, because they like to talk a lot, have a lot of meetings to talk, go with a stereotype. And then if we reflect on the Ukrainian approach, which is somewhat similar to the Belgian, French, Middle Eastern or Japanese approach, which is let's first check with the manager and only then start the process of reflection, and then work really hard in the end of that reflection to get to a point. What does this mean? It means people might be quiet in the beginning and then might seem quite pushy and in a rush in the end. And again, it's not the differences, it's the assumption that we have a similar mindset when it comes to engaging in our ways of working. So this is where culture comes in. And if you talk about culture, just in a nutshell, we don't have an individual culture as such, but we have individual preferences. But as a country, we will have a different culture from one country to the next, because different educational systems, different ways of raising our children. If you put that into an organization, every organization will have its own type of culture. And you could even say that every profession has its own kind of culture. In general, it's about groups of people that differ in the way their brain works or minds work. If you look at this from HR, you can manage all of this because you're in control of what are the symbols that you use. You're in control of who do you celebrate as a hero figure. You're in control of what are the rituals that you put in place inside an organization. How do you do onboarding? How do you promote people? How do you celebrate? And do you celebrate mistakes or not? All of these are directly managed, can be directly managed by HR working practices, but the emotions attached to it is what we call value preferences. They are set in stone, more or less, by the time we're 12 or 15 years of age. So can you really influence that as HR? Maybe, maybe not, but you can influence or you can mitigate the emotional impact of practices by understanding what is the likely consequence of a certain way of working with people that come to a country, to an organization with a particular mindset. And that group mindset, and again, group mindset, is something that as HR professionals, you can develop policies for. Policies are for groups of people. And of course, we should never forget we're also all individuals. But if we need to streamline our work, going with what moves a group tends to make our workload slightly more manageable. Now, if you compare this, there is a certain language which we use. It's called the 6D model, 6 dimensions of national culture. And in this graph in the lower corner, you quickly can see Estonia and the Ukrainian values compared. Quite a few similarities, but a few very important differences. First, and definitely very important in work, is the question of hierarchy. Who takes the initiative, the employee or the manager? In other words, if a manager does not initiate something, will the employee speak up? Another important difference, the level of individualism, meaning To which extent will an individual take an initiative and speak for the individual themselves and is focused on a task, as opposed to the more Ukrainian approach to building relationships? And the relationship is important more so than the task. And Katrin mentioned an interesting phenomena in terms of labor market, labor contracts. In individualistic societies such as Estonia, such as Finland, a labor contract is a contractual agreement. In a collectivistic society, a labor agreement is an emotional agreement. And that's when you think about to which extent are labor contracts in place. Is it really helping people that are focused on building a relationship? If too much focus is on the administrative side, that is a reflection, like what is the role there in helping people to integrate into a more individualistic society? Ways of coming to a decision are roughly similar, consensus, discussion-based. Ukraine needs more predictability. No news is not necessarily good news. It means something is happening that you are not in control of. Both countries like to look ahead into the future, more the holistic perspective, not necessarily too much detail. And both countries are emotionally somewhat more restrained in the sense that there is a time and there is a place to let go. To let go in public is not necessarily very easy. But as both cultures are relatively similar there, you would not need to expect too many differences there. But in practice, just to summarize, to kind of bridge the gap, because there is a cultural gap, it has to be very clear on who is responsible for taking initiatives. Is it the employer or is it the employee? Is it the government of Estonia, the unemployment office, or is it the refugee? Is there, how much time and effort is put in ensuring predictability? And what Katrina just mentioned as well, in terms of that emotional support. In the Estonian environment, similar as in Finland, most managers are not equipped to proactively guide people in their emotional well-being. And that will be a strong tip for Estonian managers when onboarding Ukrainian employees, prospective employees, is to really make sure that people feel comfortable, because they have so much luggage to take with them that will impact the expectations towards the manager. Another element is in a more hierarchical culture, such as Ukraine, because of that role of a manager being more of a father or a mother figure, paternal figure, which is not necessarily the case in Estonia, it is very important to be clear on the expectations. What can you expect from leadership, from management? What is it that we expect from the employee in terms of taking initiative, in speaking up when something isn't going well? Because if that is left for assumptions, then that is where potential issues can occur. So that would be, in a nutshell, in 10 minutes, a very quick reflection on what to pay attention to. And I would say that focus on the role of manager, team leader, is going to be the thing that will help people settle faster or slower. So that's it in a nutshell. As said, on LinkedIn, there's much more information, and similarly on some of the websites we built for the European Union on how to work better across cultures. Katrina, back to you.
Albert, thank you very much for your, just such a interesting presentation and your input, and really it's really useful information, and I agree with you. It was really interesting for me as well to open this topic and to talk at least in 10 minutes about this. I would like to invite Yulia Klim. It's a member of our community. Yulia is the Senior People Partner, SHRM SCP, Ciclum Spain. And Yulia will share with us her experience just relocating people and just making them work in a different society and different environment. Yulia, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Katya, for inviting me to join. And I hear that we are comparing and talking very much about Estonia and Ukraine. Originally, I'm Ukrainian, from Ukraine, and in Spain, I have been soon will be 5 years, and I will be sharing experience based on Spanish, yes, Spanish examples and Spanish patterns. So let me share my screen. So should be here already. Okay, so here we are. So a couple of words where I am. So I'm in Malaga, and our Cyclum office in Malaga is nearly 300 people. And at some point of time in Andalusia, let's say our clients' demand was not satisfied by a local market. And this is not that we wanted to create multicultural environment as an idea. This was rather a business challenge that we met with massive, I would say, relocation campaigns. And finally, after 6 years, we ended up with more than 25 nationalities, ethnical like representatives in one comparatively not super big office, right, of nearly 300 people. We have predominant culture, like 70%. This is still Spaniards, which is quite clear, but 30% is a multinational mix, and we were relocating from Latin America, from Eastern Europe, and this piece in blue, it deserves special attention. So this is our Ukrainian community in Malaga. And I would like to tell about, to share, like several, let's say, lessons learned, because we had by far 3 waves of relocation. And the first one started in 2018, and that time we were relocating a lot of people from Ukraine and Belarus. In 2 years, we were analyzing results, because very surprisingly for us, in the group of relocated team members from Ukraine, nearly 60% were leaving back after 2 years to their home country. And during first year, we were listening about how they are like delighted because it's paradise. And then after like nearly close to 2 years, they were saying, we decided to get back home. And we were investigating, because for a business it was a disruption. We expected that people would be staying much longer than 2 years. And key reasons that were coming across, of course, first of all, there were like practical reasons. It's, and financial reasons. It's high taxes in Europe. This is something that kind of known, but comes as a shock when you face it. When you try to make your savings. And it's not a secret that in IT industry, the tax regime is milder. And therefore, for IT specialists who relocate, the tax regime in Europe can be quite like sharp, if not to say shocking. Second important thing which relates to cross-culture is a lack of local friends or relatives, or this community that we were talking about, and I will be telling about this a couple of minutes after. Third important point is language. If you decide to relocate to a certain country, better to be, let's say, prepared or to have at least desire to start learning local language from the very beginning. And it shouldn't be, you shouldn't expect proficiency from yourself, but it helps integration a lot. And the fourth important thing is that we have investigated after we were analyzing this group who were leaving back, and who were staying, which is important, is, let's say, no tangible reason to stay. And I will be also explaining what I'm talking about. So our second wave of relocation, it started after COVID. During COVID year, we didn't relocate anybody. And when we now analyze, let's say, assimilation or stickiness, we have much better results. So like 100% of those whom we relocated 1.5 years ago, there is a trend that they will stay longer. And key enablers of this success is two things, I would say. Yeah, it's tangible factors to stay. And this is not only the attitude or just like curiosity to try, like I will come and feel how is it, but a certain determination. And this tangible factor can be, for example, I want to raise a small children in a safer environment, or I have some like family reason, or I decided to build future in Europe, or some other reasons that are like tangible. Of course, we're not talking now about digital nomads, which is a world trend where people just choose changing countries quite frequently. Still, as employer, we want people to stay longer than 1 or 2 years. And the second important point is this cross-cultural competence, living and working abroad experience, because this competence, one thing if you worked with or within multinational team, another thing if you worked in a different country. This can be two different, let's say, experiences, and this cross-cultural competence, it can be decomposed to several things, and my next slide will show the slide after. So we were just looking into the presentation by Hofstede, the representative, and I prepared the same, I used the same tooling, which is, thanks God, available in free use, and we start using these things when something goes wrong, right? I mean, as tools. So in Spain, what we felt as dimensions that we looked into and that we recognize make a difference for people and need to be plugged into our HR planning when we prepare for some like relocation campaigns or to adopt, to integrate people from other countries. So in Spain and Ukraine, because cultures are analyzed in relativity, we felt this collectivistic element, because Ukrainians, and we may not feel it as Ukrainians when we are in Ukraine, because it's like fish in the water, you do not understand, but when you are in a different country, for Ukrainian, it is important, rather important, to feel as a part of a group, to feel belonging to some group, to have not only friends, relatives, but also to have a neighborhood, and like having this belonging. It helps you to meet everyday challenges and to feel safe or to feel secure that, I will be fine here, I will stay here for years and years. So local community, in case if you have someone from Ukraine who is open-hearted, who is eager to help other people who come to understand the local country and peculiarities, it's important. But at the same time, it is the same important to mix if we're talking about Ukrainians who arrive, with the rest of the crowd, because this separate community, it doesn't help, it helps to understand, but it doesn't help to feel at home, let's say, in a different country. So it's the same important to arrange this blending with all the crowd, as we say. And another aspect that we paid attention to, and it's again, it's quite striking. In Spain, it is indulgence, and indulgence, it's how likely people would control their, let's say, impulses and desires, or they would follow them. It's fun at work, or we are doing something very serious. So Ukrainians usually, they come across as a very strict people. It might be surprising, but strict, sometimes reserved. Sometimes Spaniards call us as cold personalities. So in Spain it plays, and it is very important to be understood, because we do not consider ourselves cold or closed or so strict. So and when you're blending and when you make jokes with each other and sense of humor, making fun. It's so important to feel home, yeah, to feel relaxed, to feel that, yeah, I will stay here. It's not only my, you know, like country of 1 year. So this assimilation is very important. And speaking about cross-cultural competence, it usually drills down into attitudes, skills, and we're talking about communication skills, knowledge and personality traits, let's say. And with attitudes, we mean curiosity, empathy, openness. And one of my friends, she fled from the war. She fled the war, and she were in Poland, and she were doing incredible things in Poland in terms of, finding people so quickly, finding so much of support. And my another friend, she was like scared to move, and the one who moved, she was telling, look, if you have open heart, the world will be open for you. So having this open heart is very important for those who relocate. And this personality traits, which might be a bit weird to put on a slide, the word kindness, yeah, or openness, or respect, or gratefulness, this plays a different, it makes a difference, more than your knowledge, yeah, or more than your skills, because skills is something that you may learn, and we are all human beings that have tremendous capacity to learn, but only if we want, only if we want. So this respect, this attitude of gratefulness, we see that people who have it, they stay regardless of even their situation or level of salary or hardships that they're going through. So that's the main learning points. And if you are HR in a country that prepares to receive people who relocate, it's important to plan, of course, let's say, practical things such as soft lending, family support, checklist in terms of how to open a bank account and how finances and tax declarations are arranged, but also this soft part, which relates to educating and telling about the culture, blending people together, and facilitate and encourage to, or nudge, mixing with the rest. Even if people tend to close, okay, I will stay, I need some time. Yeah, they need some time, it's true, especially currently, many people are in shock. But step by step, you can invite and lead them through this process of assimilation, because sometimes people do not know what they really need. It's another experiment sometimes, this experiment when you think that you're invited to choose a music of your preference, you choose a music, and then scientists look how your brain reacts, and your brain reacts differently compared to your conscious choice. It means that our parts are not always, let's say, have a sequence, let's say, so practical conclusion, we do not always know what we really want. So let's help those who relocate. Thank you.
Julia, thank you very much. You really had a huge experience in this topic with all of this relocation recently since our previous revolution and when the war started. So really thank you for such a practical ideas you share with us. Thank you for your time and being with us. Thank you.
Pleasure.
I want to finish with a couple of slides with just some kind of conclusions. And what we understand right now, what is our takeaways of such a situation we are facing. It's really what help us to be resilient, to be international as a business, to be international as a professional person, to be more internationally connected as a personality, to have more friends all around the world, to travel more. It's really all of that things help us to be more effective and productive and somehow deal even in such a terrible situation. And what I want to pay attention to for HRs, it's these three things. It's critical thinking, it's risk management, and contingency plan. Yes, we were thinking that some bad things can happen. The Ukraine was in a war, and part of our country was annexed. I'm talking about Crimea. So for sure, businesses were doing their best to somehow prepare and created some contingency plans. I discussed with many HRs and they say, yeah, we created 2, 3, even sometimes 5 contingency plan, but nobody could expect such things. So yeah, I think it's psychological reaction of any healthy person not to accept such a thing. So please think about contingency plan, do it, prepare it, imagine everything and think how you should be prepared. You're personally, you're as a professional, and you're as a business. Usually, the topic of risk management wasn't really in the focus of HR specialists. Yes, we are learning such things. We are in a discussion with the management team, but I rarely seen the HR specialists who paid a lot of attention to risk management. And I think I've seen a lot of HR specialists all over the world. So please pay attention to this topic. Think, read, and think how you can be more prepared. What about critical thinking? It's what we should think for, not only for ourselves, for our kids, but for our employees as well. Because I think it's connected with risk management, with contingency plan, and with preparation of changes we can face. I really believe and hope that none of us will face the war again, and I hope that our war will finish as soon as possible, but there is plenty of things happen in our life, like pandemic, economical crisis, environment problems. So yeah, it's necessary to work with information to be better prepared. Next slide. What else could we do as HR specialists right now, whenever we are? So use the websites and platforms to register jobs for refugees. There is many of them. So please use them. I know that our Ukrainian specialists search for vacancies at that platform. Working to remove bureaucracy for hiring. I think it can help us not only to work with refugees, but in general. Really, there is a lot of bureaucracy in Europe, and you know how the many steps in hiring not helping us to get the best people. So please think about this, do some review of the processes right now. Think about approach, consider different approach to open position, remote work, part-time jobs, flexible working hours. You remember that refugee right now taking care of kids, and it's primarily women who is alone, and they have really plenty of problems they're facing and will be facing during the minimum 6 months or even more. So maybe some flexible working hours, part-time jobs could be really useful. Think about how you can help with your training facilities, training of language, some skills, cultural sensitivity, all of that things. You have these facilities, share it. If you provide some kind of languages courses for people you already employ, think maybe you can share it with other refugees somehow, maybe. So just think about it. Mental health. I already talked a lot about this. Build the system of psychological and well-being support, not only for refugees, but for your own employees as well. it really helps with all of that we face right now. Offering mentorship to Ukrainian colleagues, legal support and advices for the newcomers will be really important as well. And some other stuff, if you are international and if you operate, you can help the Ukrainian part of your company, as well. This is the main, what I wanted to talk about, to share. Maybe we have some kind of questions, and maybe you can help me as well. So I'm done.
Yes, I have one question which I would like to ask. I don't know if Katrina, you would like to answer that, or maybe Julia or Egbert, but it's a future question. So what would you say, what will be the biggest challenges for Ukrainian HR professionals, like for the next couple of months or half a year or something like that?
Julia, maybe you will start. What do you think?
I may start, yeah, I may start, but I'm talking a bit narrow because I'm operating in IT, and we see that in IT, we dedicate a lot of attention to soft practices, while in Europe, HR is very much, I would say, maybe half of your role is dealing with local labor law, and you need to be very aware, very solid, seasoned professional if you want to work as HR in Europe. It was my learning as well. I was a little bit shocked when I was coming to a meeting with employee and he was saying, "Oh, Julia, you probably do not know about that. So I will tell you now." And I'm like, okay, such an embarrassing situation. And it's a process of learning, of course, and better be prepared. Of course, HR in IT, it's only a small piece, right, of the market. And probably HR managers in agriculture, in metallurgical areas, they are more industries, yeah, they are more prepared in terms of dealing with labor law. But in Europe, it's really strong. So this is an important thing. And also, if in Ukraine, in many companies, especially smaller ones, these global practices or streams such as mental health, diversity and inclusion, it's just like not buzzwords, but like nice, yeah, something distant, something which is not in Europe, it's already there, and this is already very practical. So the majority of the companies offer something initially in their package as already not just, let's say, values or approaches, but as something like practical, tangible, like tools, yeah. So you need to be also very prepared in these regards, and yeah, international certifications, by the way, helped me, Katya, when I was relocating. I was, oh, okay, I was learning all of that, didn't yet implement in practice, but also already familiar.
Yeah, I agree with you that it's really a lot of, for our specialists, if they are going to be relocated, they need to pay a lot of attention to local language first. Second, it's to, just legal aspects of work, for HR work as well. So it's to talk how local specialists can help to integrate Ukrainians. It's one of the things, it's not just language, but legal aspects of the profession as well. And I really can say that if to talk about, be international, when we talk about us as a professionals, it doesn't matter Ukrainian you are or represent any other country. It means that international certification, participating in international events like any kind of big gathering, it really helps you to narrow, I mean, just to be more open-minded specialists and to be prepared to any kind of international position and role. And if to talk about Ukrainian HR specialists, I think for one who will stay in Ukraine, the main problem will be to return all the people back, and we all wait when the war finish, and for us to rebuild our country again and make it even better and stronger and more beautiful. That's what I can say. So thank you very much for everybody who joined us today. Thank you, colleagues from Estonia, for hosting us and for preparing the information. And really, you can find me in LinkedIn profile. If you have any questions or any ideas or vacancy for our HR specialists, you can connect with me and talk to them easily. I do my best to reply as soon as possible, so please.
Yeah, I see Kai has just posted, in the group, the opportunity for maybe for recruiter. And I wonder, might be a wonderful opportunity for someone, and I may spread, for example, share on my Facebook. I'm just asking for permission if I may do it, Kai.
Yes, not me, Kai from Baltic Restaurants Estonia. He's
Hello.
Ukrainian.
Okay.
So yes, it would be lovely.
Super. Okay. Great.
So from my part, if there are not any more questions, then I think we can wrap this up. It was really, really thorough and useful information that you shared with us today. I think everybody who recruits Ukrainians and every HR professional in Estonia needs to watch this webinar afterwards as well. And thank you so much for participating, and let's give our warm wishes to all Ukrainians and help them as best as we can. Thank you. And
thank you,
Egbert
and Katrina, to sharing your important information as well. Valuable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's stay connected.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.